welcome back to Point Blank. If you have just joined us, the topic for today is the state of our nation's mental health.
That's right, and here with Amanda and I are Ms. Porsche Poh and Mr. Harris Ng, who are both from Singapore, from Silver Ribbon, Singapore. Yeah, and Harris has actually been coping rather positively with schizophrenia for the past 30 years right now.
Yeah. That's right. Previously, we were talking about Singaporeans' attitudes towards the mentally ill.
So, but what about the law in Singapore? How does the law typically deal with and perceive and accused with mental issues?
We've seen like some cases of suspects with mental illnesses, like on the papers. But I guess the question is, sort of, how can our current law system deal with this type of criminals sort of more effectively?
That's right. And earlier we actually mentioned the recent case of the MP who was set on fire by an ex-cabbie who was said to be mentally unstable. And I actually spoke to Mr. Wong Siu Hong, who is the director of Infinitus Law Corporation and also a member of the Criminal Law Advisory Committee, to hear his thoughts on the case.
Yeah, he also talks about what's lacking in our current investigative sort of procedures, some of the challenges that the system poses, and what we can expect in the upcoming amendment of the Criminal Procedure Code. So let's take a look.
In the case of this man, this retired taxi driver, who's gone on to pour petrol on the poor MP and then set him on fire, the law adequately makes provisions for it, and now that they are aware that he is mentally ill, the question then the law and the courts will have to decide when he's produced in court is, what are we going to do with him? What are the sentencing options that are available? And amongst the things that, of course, the court will have to look at is to determine whether he is a menace and a threat to society. Is he likely to go out and set fire to somebody else?
And I would assume the judge would also take into consideration the severity of his mental illness
yes.
at this point in time.
That's right. Because then all this goes towards the issue of to what extent should he be responsible for his actions. We're moving towards that. But one of the things that I would assert that the Singapore system does not adequately capture at this moment in time is right at the beginning, when during the investigation and the apprehension stage. Is this person really of sound mind? There are some instances where the court is able to impose a suspended sentence. Well, we're certainly moving towards that in Singapore. There was a case involving a lawyer in Singapore who committed an offence while he was clinically depressed in Hong Kong. He was given a suspended sentence. So effectively, the court was telling him, yes, we find you guilty, but we're not going to put you in jail. And if you keep a nose clean for X period of months, X period of time, and in this case I think it was 12 months, it will not, the conviction will be considered to be spent. And so during that period, it would be wise for the offender to go look for medical treatment, psychiatric treatment, etc. It's certainly something that I think will be coming on board into Singapore during the forthcoming amendments to the Criminal Procedure Code.
You would say that the law is looking towards incorporating psychiatric treatment into punishment as well, into the whole punishment process as well, right? As part of the process.
Yes. These are some of the sentencing options that are available, and there's some sort of a treatment regime, and there is, on top of that, the power of the court to order this person to attend treatment. And if he doesn't attend treatment, there is some form of sanction, punishment in the background. The problem that comes with mental illness is that many people are in denial. If you're mentally disabled, I'm not mentally disabled. How dare you say I'm mentally disabled? When you don't acknowledge the problem, then there is a difficulty with compliance because you don't want to follow up, you don't want to seek treatment. And very likely, it leads to other consequences. And one of those consequences, unfortunately, is that you run into trouble with the law. The proper focus should be right at the beginning. How do we, even identify if these people, a person who has been apprehended, who has committed an offence, is or is not harboring under a mental disability? And secondly, that the mental disability was not operating. And once that's been done, then what protocols, what mechanisms do we have for ensuring that the rights of these persons are adequately protected? The officers of a police force are not trained to take these things on board, right? And the moment anybody who has been apprehended, the person goes through the mill. He just goes through the process in the same way as everybody else. When you are mentally disabled, two problems arise. One, sometimes you don't know you are mentally disabled, and B, it constrains your ability to communicate, because when you don't know what's operating inside the background of your mind, and what's pulling the strings for you, basically you're a puppet.
Would you say that for mental patients, would you recommend institutionalizing them for repeat offenders?
Well, that's what is being done right now. The question here is, how do we integrate them back into society?
Are you for that?
Definitely. Because every human being has got the potential to do great good. The question is, how do we tap into that potential?
So what do you guys think about that? That's quite a mouthful, but institutionalizing criminals, repeat offenders. This brings up the point about low IQ criminals. I mean, that's not exactly mentally ill, but that's also a mental condition, right? So how have you actually, has the police actually engaged your services in, communicating with criminals who are of low IQ maybe, or with mental issues?
Yeah, we have been approached, and we never announced this to the public. I guess the public has been, some of them have been complaining or writing to forums saying that nothing much has been done. Actually, I think I really applaud the setup of a community court, and presently we are working closely with them, and the judges are very understanding. They will actually recommend a psychiatric assessment at IMH, and not only that, if let's say they are being diagnosed, they will recommend
prior to the investigation process, or
prior to the investigation.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Then they will recommend that these offenders seek help from us or other mental health organization. For example, presently we are providing counseling for a few offenders, updating them on the needs of continuing the medication, and the consequences of defaulting them. So we also inform them that we are always here if, let's say, they need any help or any advice. So it has been very effective, and a number of offenders still do that follow-ups with us.
So you do ensure that they keep to their medication, and they're not allowed to go off the medication.
You're right. Unless upon the approval of their psychiatrist.
So how often do they get to talk to do they get to meet up with their psychiatrist? Is it mandatory? Is it also specified by the judge as well?
I'm not sure about the psychiatrist, but for our counseling services, the judge highly recommended the counseling services to the offender. The need to continue to take their medication and attend counseling sessions at our wellness studio.
The idea of whether it was just discussed, is whether to institutionalize that or to let them free on the street. It's a big debate, but IMH has stated very clearly that the policy is
not to institutionalize
that, so that we recognize the potential to recover, and recovery rate is high, is good, and then give them back the quality of life that it's possible, let them have independence, find a work, get married, build their own nest, and be able to pay for their own medication and live a normal quality life. So this is idea is not doing. On the other hand, we have discussed with the courts and the judges. They are very merciful. They are very loving. Have a very loving heart. They feel that for example, in the case of we just mentioned, the man who set the MP on fire.
That's right.
We somehow maybe have to protect the public. So the feeling is that we might have to put them in a safe place to protect the public for a while. But for example, put them in a jail. But if it's possible, we put them in a rehab center.
Okay.
But which rehab center to go to? IMH is so fully occupied. Or if you can find an institution to put them, it's well and good. But if not, they put it in the jail. But the idea that behind their mind is their loving mind, their good intentions, that we will try to get the prison to give them medical treatment. And my understanding is that from our unnecessary discussion with them is that if they are given treatment in the jail, if there's a psychiatrist there, and there's monitoring that they really take the pills and so on, after 5 years of proper treatment, their brain cells will regenerate. The brain is very plastic, the plasticity is very good, the regenerative power is very good. If there's no relapse for about 5 years, they will become alert, become sensible, rational. The tendency to go relapse again, commit another violence, another crime, will not be there. And so after the sentence of about 5 years, when they are let out of prison, it will be very good. But on the other hand, if the treatment is not given in the jail, then the feeling is that there's no point sending them into the jail. Because if there is no treatment in the jail, then it will degenerate. The brain disorder will degenerate because there's no treatment. After they completed the sentence of 5 years, when they are let off, it will become worse, you see. So we are all aware of this thing, the judges are aware of this thing, and we are working slowly towards it, see what we can do, not just from the court jurisdiction, but from the prison's jurisdiction. It's a very understanding issue, and there are a lot of cases that need to be attended to. So right now, the initial stage is like what Porsche said. We do counseling for some of the cases, but only a few selected cases because there are so many cases. So I hope that 35 million, maybe spend 1 or 2 million into this area, helping the prison. And I would like to emphasize, if we can put the money in the prison, then provide a psychiatrist, a nurse, a counselor. Then the cycle of repeated offenses will not be there. By the mentally ill will not be there. I would suggest that would be a good solution.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Now, we've spoken so much about it. Okay, we'll be back though, and that's where we will show you an interview with that Amanda actually conducted with a bipolar patient. So stay with us.